Good afternoon. Welcome to the Skeptrack and to the Skeptics Guide for Revolution and Meditation. Our speaker today is Mark Gura. He's the Vice President of the Atheist Alliance, the Executive Director of the Association of Mindfulness, Meditation, and Secular Buddhism. And his favorite thing at DragonCon is me, so he's an extremely intelligent man. So pay very close attention.
Thank you, everyone. Great to be here. Great to be here. So what does our community want? We want people to be skeptical, right? We want people to make the world better, and we want to make the world better, right? We want less indoctrination, less superstition, right? The secular Buddhist Reformation is that opportunity. We have the opportunity to change an entire religion from within. When we change a religion, we dispel indoctrination and superstition. We change voting patterns, and we create more skeptics. And when was the last time that skeptics changed an entire religion? I mean, yes, between the years 1517, 1648, that was a long time ago, the 17th century. But during that time, we probably got burned at the stake if we tried, right? In a way. Sure, the Protestant Reformation broke up the power of Christianity, the monopoly. The Enlightenment encouraged reason and science versus superstition and submission to authority, and the whole physical and supernatural bowing down to that. And obviously, we still have a long, long way to go, right? And the secular Buddhist Reformation is a reformation that's happening here and now. It's the beginning of it. And we're all not only witnesses, but we can also help. And it injects science and reason into Buddhism without bloodshed. We're not going to be burning anyone at the stake here, all right? It's the next step to reforming an entire religion. So how do we enact this reformation, this revolution? How many of you have heard something like this? I never question my religion. I follow the faith of my forefathers. My family has always been Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever, right? We've all heard that. Why did our ancestors choose the religion that they chose? Is religion the product of geography, indoctrination? Was it caused by conquest, colonization, isolation? What if our ancestors were Muslim? Would we now be defending Islam? On the other hand, some people believe information that they can test and corroborate only. And without falsifiable, testable, replicable evidence, they consider any extraordinary claim as merely an assumption. Some people examine their religious beliefs. They're skeptical about their religion. And Buddhists are no exception. And you know what? Buddhists are supposed to seek the truth, right? They're supposed to know for themselves. They're supposed to seek true happiness. And we call Buddhists who disagree with traditional Buddhism secular Buddhists. They are atheists, they're secular, they don't believe in gods, gurus, or the supernatural. Their beliefs are based on science and reason. They're skeptics, they're humanists. Now, some reasons why someone might be a secular Buddhist. So are reasons why someone might disagree with traditional Buddhism. Traditional Buddhism is animistic. It believes in a sort of energy that pervades life force, that pervades all things. It believes in spirits and ghosts and gods with a small g. And generally, it does believe that men are superior to women. That's in the scriptures. Women have to do more things to become enlightened, if they even can become enlightened, according to traditional Buddhism. And monks tend to be revered above everyone else. And they believe in rebirth and karma. Something like reincarnation kind of stuff, right? And they encourage devotion and faith and sometimes dogma, even though they'll deny it. So is traditional Buddhism a religion? I say yes, because any system of organized beliefs about the cause and nature and purpose of existence, whose core concepts depend on something supernatural that's not science-based, I think is a very good definition for what religion is. Now, there are other definitions. Some are feel-good definitions. Some are legal definitions. But I'm talking about reality here. So, because look, without that supernatural component, if something is just ritualistic, yeah, that can be confused with being called a religion. But then science is even confused with being a religion, right? And what about passion and politics? Is that a religion? Is football a religion? So just because something... Okay, you got me on that one. And then on the other hand, secular Buddhism. Is secular Buddhism a religion? I mean, it has no beliefs in the supernatural. It has no beliefs in gods, no reliance on gurus. So why use the term secular Buddhism in the first place? Why not just call it something else, something very cool? Because it's already called that. It's already started. The movement's started. When it morphs into something else and we figure out a really cool name for it, I'll be there with you. Right now, it's called secular Buddhism. And it also gives credit where it's due. And the most important thing that it does is it gives skeptics the rightful leverage to reform superstition in a religion, to reform an entire religion. So why identify as a secular Buddhist? Why would someone even call themselves a Buddhist in the first place? Why not just say I'm a humanist? Who was the Buddha? You have the right to self-identify as a secular Buddhist if you don't believe in gods, gurus, pseudoscience, or the supernatural, and you utilize at least one of three things, or all of them, or just two of them, or just one. So if you utilize some sort of secular Buddhist meditation technique, or if you utilize some sort of a Buddhist ethical system, or Buddhist philosophy. Now, the way the whole skeptic atheist thing kind of works and feels, right? And is we start off being skeptics. Skepticism is kind of a gateway drug, right? And then some of us take that step and we become atheists. And we lack a belief in God. That's all an atheist means. We just don't have enough belief to believe in a God. So we're an atheist. And then secular humanism is a belief, it's atheism, but it's also striving to live an ethical and personally fulfilling life for the greater good, right? And then secular Buddhism is that plus either meditation, ethics, or Buddhist philosophy in some secular form. Now, I also do agree with David Silverman about that we're all atheists, if we're atheists, and we should wear that banner and huddle around that. That's great. So secular Buddhists don't worship the Buddha. And who was the Buddha anyway? A guy that lived about 2,500 years ago. It's what's now Nepal. It used to be India back in that day. And he was either a Hindu prince or a chieftain, and he left his privileged life to seek answers. And he studied Hinduism, the religions of his day. And he rejected Hinduism. And he developed meditation techniques that are now confirmed effective by neuroscience. And he's one of the first, perhaps, documented atheists in history. But his primary directive, after all of that, after his whole search and the meditation techniques and everything, was don't worship gods. Meditate. Learn inner peace. He did not believe in a creator deity, as far as I know. So secular Buddhism is a return to this primary directive, the initial directive. And can you imagine how controversial that statement would have been, or that idea would have been 2,500 years ago? Imagine ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient Asia. Gods abounded. There was a temple in every corner, and it was all about worshiping the gods and praying so that the gods would give us more and save us from things, right? And then here's this Buddha character, and he's like, don't worship gods. It's within yourself. Learn inner peace. So what wound up happening is that idea somehow wound up spreading, and it challenged the religions of the day. And the religions of the day didn't know how to deal with that for a while. And after a while, they got a great idea. Let's make the Buddha into a god so that we can put him in our temple. And now you can come back to our temple, give us money, worship all the other gods, and by the way, the Buddha. So that's one of the ways that Buddha became a god. But another thing that happened was everywhere that Buddhism went, it integrated with that culture and that society and that way of being. So this is why in Tibet, Buddhism looks so much different than in Sri Lanka and Japan. Because everywhere Buddhism goes, and this is since the beginning of time, it takes on the character and nature of that place and time and culture. And it's no different when Buddhism came to the West and took on and mixed with our culture. Buddhism became more skeptical, became more even more atheistic. And secular Buddhism is just another way so secular Buddhism is what Buddhism has always done. It's not a new form of Buddhism that just cropped up. It's a return to the original Buddhism, I think. And Buddhism has expanded worldwide, and it's growing. To 2010 count, there were 500 million Buddhists in the world. That's 7% of the population. Now, what is secular Buddhism? It's basically traditional Buddhism, subtract the gods, the gurus, the pseudoscience, and the supernatural. It only utilizes beliefs and practices that are consistent with and corroborated by reason and science. And then you practice secular forms of Buddhist meditation or Buddhist ethics or Buddhist philosophy. A quick abbreviated history of Buddhism. Its first stage 2,500 years ago, we as just lay people, everyday people, we would not be allowed to learn Buddhist meditation. That was reserved for monks. We were just asked to venerate the monks, give them money, support, and go to the temples. And that started to change. After Buddhism came to the West and Western intellectuals embraced the philosophy of it, eventually Buddhism started to be taught to lay people. My teacher's teacher was one of the first lay people to start teaching lay people. And then in the 1960s, my teacher, S.N. Goenka, started to teach secular meditation. But that still wasn't secular Buddhism yet. I call that proto-secular Buddhism because those teachers, that first phase, they taught reincarnation or rebirth still. They still believed in some of the traditional things. In 1975, other famous teachers started to also teach meditation in the West. In 79, the MBSR program was created. I learned my meditation in 94. And then small groups started to form all over the net and all over the place. And then I published my book about, I formed AMMSB, which is the Association of Mindfulness Meditation and Secular Buddhism. It's a 501c3. Books came out, mine, Atheist Meditation, Sam Harris, Waking Up. And then later we started to join with organizations like the Atheist Alliance. We adopted street epistemology, affiliated with American Atheists, Atheist Alliance International, started to use and adopt critical thinking. So we're now in a very historic, and can you imagine, this is the beginning of a reformation of the fourth largest religion in the world. And you are all witnesses and perhaps, hopefully, participants of changing an entire religion, adding skepticism to it, something that we all love and know, right? And so secular Buddhism is just a return to the ethics, meditation, and philosophy. And the personal benefits. Let's talk about meditation and why secular Buddhists would even want to do the meditation. So what happens is most Buddhists practice meditation, most secular Buddhists, and that gives them the right to be called secular Buddhists. Very few get into the philosophy and the ethics and stuff like that, but some do. But why is the meditation so important? Well, we all know meditation curbs stress. It makes people feel in different ways. It makes them feel maybe stronger or more empowered or more compassionate. And, for the longest time, we skeptics, we looked at meditation and we thought, this is just a feel-good thing. People just kind of feel certain things, but there's no corroboration. And, eventually neuroscience and psychology caught up and started to confirm some of the benefits that were just before that just merely thought of as feelings, right? So science started to confirm that, meditation does decrease stress. It decreases depression, dissatisfaction, works as a tool for helping change unproductive mental patterns, maybe helps with anxiety disorders and addictions. But now we know through neuroscience that meditation actually makes the brain look different. So physical benefits of meditation, more than 20 studies, University of British Columbia found that on average, practiced meditators tended to have 8 distinct brain areas that are different with non-meditators. So an increase in tissue in the area of the brain that maintains attention and controlling impulses. Thicker tissue in the area responsible for attention control and body awareness. Stronger connections between various brain areas. A reduction in the region linked to negative emotions, sadness and anxiety. Reduced activity in the region responsible for pain. And this is what it looks like physically. So, is meditation problem-free? Well, I see at least 2. There are some dangers to it. At least 2, physical, psychological, right? So meditation has become so popular, it's on every corner. And most people don't really know what they're getting into when they go to a meditation center. And sure, the people are welcoming, and sure, everything sounds nice, but do we really know what the meditation is? A lot of people get involved in it, they have vested interest in it. When they actually start to find out some of the red flags or some of the things that they might not actually want to learn or be normalized to, such as maybe mythological or religious beliefs that come with that meditation center. And a lot of times these centers are like, well, just come and practice and don't worry about all the red flags, just concentrate on the good stuff that you like. But shouldn't we know what we're getting into before we go, right? And so this is why I talk about what meditation really looks like, so you'll kind of know all the different ways. The other danger of meditation is that meditation does take us into an altered state of consciousness. And this decreases reason-based vigilance. So when we're not fully conscious and screening out information, some information tends to bypass our critical faculties. And we become normalized to some information. And this is probably why advertising is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Because advertisers put us in an altered state of consciousness using music and video and movement. And before you know it, we're not paying attention. We're just absorbing messages. And then after a while, those messages become normal and we start to act on them. Well, that's why I say don't mix religion with meditation. And I'm going to talk about that stuff too. But meditation is generally considered safe for healthy people. And I say safe for healthy people because meditation does bring you within, bring you into the psyche, into unconscious things that you may not be aware of. And so things such as unprocessed anxiety, grief, fear, anger, emotional and mental blockages from the past, or even made up abuse or trauma can come up. And good meditation techniques help one to deal with that, though. So, altered state of consciousness, what is that? How does one access it, and what happens there, right? So there's spontaneous, which includes chemical, purposeful, and there's also 4 ways to access that, either through guided, auditory, visual, or mindfulness/kinesthetic techniques. And then there's 2 types of meditation, religious and secular. And once you're aware of these, you'll know, because all the techniques out there mix one or more of these techniques with them, so you'll understand meditation. So spontaneous versus purposeful. So obviously consciousness, as far as we know, is a recent evolutionary development. We're animals, and as far as we know, we weren't always as conscious as we are right now. We weren't always able to process information as we do now. But being conscious and being aware of information can be painful and can cause stress. So most of us, all of us, experience stress in our lives, right? And meditation happens to us anyway, naturally, spontaneously, every single day. Every single day, we all go into that altered state of consciousness. We're driving our cars, and all of a sudden we're there at that destination. And we're like, wow. We were not aware, and we existed, and we existed in this altered space, right? Now, meditating in that way, where you walk through the woods and you enjoy environment, or you go golfing, or you participate in some sports, or great music, or shows, or whatever, is a way to spontaneously meditate. So some of you may be doing that already, and you're like, well, that's all I need. And some of you may never practice anything else, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But it does leave out some of the benefits of doing it purposefully, and I'll talk about that in a second. I mean, doing it spontaneously is easy, and it happens all the time. But it also leaves us open to being conditioned by our environment when we're in that state, and it also leaves it more difficult for us to interpret information that comes up from the unconscious. So purposeful states of meditation are when you purposefully enter into an altered state of consciousness. And what that helps us to do is it helps us to rewire the brain using neuroplasticity to achieve our own desires, whatever they may be. Now, neuroplasticity works whether you meditate or not, but when you meditate, you're using meditation to change the brain and the way it works for us. It also helps us free us from unwanted instinctual reactions and limitations. Purposeful meditation or actual meditation helps us observe unconscious processes, helps us to overwrite the brain's bias towards pessimism, helps us evaluate ways in which we have been affected by our cultural conditioning, and it aims our minds towards our goals. The problem with it is it does take time, and it takes effort, and it's not recommended for everyone. So secular versus religious meditation. So anytime that you're meditating, you're using a subject that's not related to meditation or belief systems, and it's just you're observing something natural like the breath or the sensations of the body, then you're practicing a secular form of meditation. If you're using some sort of system that refers back to some sort of a belief system, then you're using a religious form of meditation. And when I say belief system that's linked somehow with something supernatural. So the problem with that is that you become normalized to that belief system whether you know it or not. And when you become more normalized, you tend to be more of a believer, less of a skeptic, right? And if you are a skeptic and you want to be more skeptical, then obviously that's not the thing you want to do. But then religious folks and religious leaders and religions tend to want us to practice religious meditation, probably for those reasons, right? Now, the 4 different types of meditations: guided, visual, verbal, mindfulness/kinesthetic, or a mixture of any or more of thereof, right? So what's guided meditation? Guided meditation is when someone or something takes you into an altered state of consciousness, whether it's a person or a computer or a brainwave synchronizer or music or a TV or whatever else. And obviously it's very easy to just lay back and let someone do this for you. But it's also someone or something is directing your mind, and that's straight up hypnosis. It risks you becoming dependent on a person or an external object for your meditation, and you don't develop your own abilities to meditate. And the entity that's guiding you may have ulterior motives, or may lack proper qualifications, or may just want your money. Now, I only utilize guided meditation when someone's new, because I kind of see it as a crutch. And it's okay to use it at first, but I encourage people to let it go as soon as possible, especially if you want to learn mindfulness type meditation. If you're trying to achieve other kind of goals with it, maybe it's okay, but maybe not. I'll leave that up to you. Visual meditation is whenever you use an object, whether it's external or internal, to enter an altered state of consciousness, whether you imagine it or whether you see it. The advantage of it is that makes it easier to meditate. It's easier than a lot of other techniques. The disadvantage is you're utilizing something that's human-made. And so you're not experiencing the reality of the moment, therefore. And it generally involves more consciousness. Verbal meditation is when you use sounds to enter into an altered state of consciousness. So whether it's you're listening to some sort of music or some sort of chanting, or whether you're doing the music, singing the music, or chanting the music, or even imagining that you're doing it, And some of the same problems exist with verbal meditation that do with visual. You're using more consciousness to do it. It's also more symbolized or reflective of something that's human-made. So my favorite kind of meditation, and I think this is the greatest type of meditation for atheists and skeptics, is mindfulness meditation, because it concentrates on natural things that cannot indoctrinate you, something like the breath or the sensations of the body. And then you're able to learn how to accept the moment and be fine with the moment, and you're not getting linked to something outside of yourself. So why secular Buddhism versus just meditation? A lot of people say, well, I meditate anyway. Why would I consider myself a secular Buddhist? Well, first of all, if someone is practicing a meditation technique that was created by the Buddha or Buddhism, they're practicing something Buddhist. And it's a 2,500-year-old, secular Buddhism has a 2,500-year-old provenance. So that's kind of cool. But it's also a golden standard. It's not just some technique that was made up yesterday that may or may not be effective. And it's also been proven by time and now proven by science and neuroscience. But the most important reason for practicing secular Buddhism, if you already practice meditation, is you have the right to call yourself a secular Buddhist. And that gives you a right to inject skepticism into Buddhism and to change the fourth largest religion and get rid of the mumbo jumbo from it. And if you don't do it, who is going to do it? If the skeptics don't do it and the atheists don't do it, it's not going to happen. Well, it's already happening. So come join the Reformation. And not doing that, not joining it, loses our leverage to change an entire religion. Because, religions have created monopolies. And they've created monopolies over certain psychological experiences. They've convinced people that psychological experiences, those types of experiences that we experience in meditation, must be supernatural or linked somehow with gods or gurus or something like that, right? And why does the religion try to monopolize these experiences? Well, religion stands on 4 pillars. It stands on theology, which in the skeptics or more the atheist world, we sort of believe and embrace in science and reason, right? So more and more, we have less need for theological systems of viewing things, because theology is just a fancy word for history, psychology, mythology, rites and rituals all mixed together. So religion is losing that first pillar that it's always stood on, and people are no longer needing the theology. The second pillar that religion has always stood on is altruism. It's always been that you're not really a good person if you don't belong to our religion. And you can't even be a good person if you don't belong to our religion. Well, we know that's not true. The Atheist Alliance is helping the homeless. The atheist community, the skeptics community, people who are not religious are good people. We all know that. We don't no longer need to identify with religion to be considered good. So religion has lost that pillar. The third pillar that religion's always stood on, community. Most of history, if you didn't belong to the religious community, you just didn't belong. And sometimes the community would kill you for it. Well, now we have our own community. We're part of the skeptics community. We're part of the atheist community. We have our own community. We don't need religion for that. So religion has lost that pillar. And the last pillar that religion has is the idea that things like altered state of consciousness are somehow supernatural. So this is something that is leveraged to transform a religion, because the more testing we do, scientific, reason-based testing that we do, that shows that altered state of consciousness is just a psychological experience. And I don't want to say just, because that's very powerful too. But it's not supernatural. The more we transform religion, and especially Buddhism. So why should atheists and skeptics help secular Buddhists? Well, secular Buddhists are secular, they are atheists, they are skeptics, they need our help to transform Buddhism. Secular Buddhists remind traditional Buddhists that rites, rituals, and faiths in gods and gurus and pseudoscience and the supernatural are not necessary. Secular Buddhists vote. We should make them part of our community. The challenge that we face, though, is that generally secular Buddhists are ostracized by traditional Buddhists and disliked by Christians, Hindus, and Muslims, and even rejected by atheists and skeptics. How many times have rocks been thrown at me? And I'm an atheist and a skeptic. And I don't believe in anything other than reason-based science stuff. So why is secular Buddhism good for our community? Well, there are 500 million Buddhists that we're not talking to, that are not sitting in this room, that are not part of our community. And many of them, every single presentation almost, I've had someone come up to me and say, I'm a secular Buddhist, and I didn't know it. I'm an atheist. I already didn't believe in gods and gurus and the supernatural. It's not like we're even trying to convert anybody. We're just trying to let those people know who are already part of our community that they're part of our community. So secular Buddhists are part of us. I mean, I've seen numbers of how many atheists are there in the United States. And I've seen anywhere from 0, like none of us are atheists. There's no such thing as an atheist. We all secretly believe in God. 2, there's 25, 26%. So let's use that high number. Let's say there are 25, 26% of the United States is atheists, right? That still means that 74, 75% believe in the supernatural. We are a small community. We need more members. So secular Buddhists are basically skeptics and they're atheists. Secular Buddhism is everything that works about Buddhism. Most people that don't know Buddhism and think it's really cool, they're really thinking of secular Buddhism. Because when they start to learn traditional Buddhism, and if they're skeptics or atheists, they go, whoa. So secular Buddhism is history in the making. This is a reformation, a historical event that school children will read about all over the world for as long as history is taught in classrooms. It's a reformation of an entire religion from within. And this has not happened to Buddhism in 2,500 years. And this is the first time that science and reason is reforming a religion from the inside out. So our work is to find secular Buddhists, let them know that they're fellow skeptics and or atheists, and that they belong in our community. And I just need your help to do that. So by taking part in this reformation, you are helping to change the 4th largest religion in the world. I mean, this is exciting stuff. This is like we actually have the ability to change a religion, to make it more skeptical. And most of us are sitting back and just letting it happen. So what should we do? Volunteer and help if you can. Go to our website, ammsb.org. Support also the Atheist Alliance of America. Welcome secular Buddhists to the atheist and skeptic community. Support secular Buddhists in teaching traditional Buddhists that they don't need the supernaturalism. Read and recommend the book that will soon come out about secular Buddhism by the AMMSB. And if the fancy strikes you, learn a secular form of meditation. And so now, I really do want your ideas and your feedback and your challenges. I mean, you're skeptics, we're skeptics together. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out how to take this reformation to the next level. It's the people in this room who can make the most change, who can take the next direction for this reformation. So thank you very much. And thank you.
So there's a microphone here in the middle here. If anybody has any questions, please come on up. Thank you very much.
I have a gut reaction to calling my beliefs a religion. It's a negative gut reaction,
Sure.
Obviously. And so my question is probably why? Because I don't think of myself as religious. I do think of myself as an atheist. I do not have any trouble with most of the non-dogmatic, non-supernatural parts of Buddhism, but to make that, you're making a leap there that I've not made before. And so can you talk about that? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one that has that reaction.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with you that, first of all, I don't think that secular Buddhism is a religion according to its traditional definition. The legal definition, for example, of atheism is that atheism is a religion. Like when it comes to politics and the law, atheism, for example, falls into the religious category because, the movement wants certain things from government and stuff like that. So in that sense, one could stretch and say, yeah, secular Buddhism is a religion. But in the sense that, in its purest sense, secular Buddhism is not a religion, but it's changing the fourth largest religion in the world. And the reason it's not a religion is because it has no belief in gods, gurus, or the supernatural. And in the best definition that I can find for religion is that in order for something to be religious, it can't just be ritualistic or you be passionate about it, and that's what makes it a religion. What makes something a religion is that it has a supernatural component to it. And secular Buddhism doesn't. So if you're already a Buddhist and you identify with Buddhist traditions in some way, like for example the meditation or the ethics or the philosophy, and you call yourself a secular Buddhist, calling yourself a secular Buddhist is just like calling yourself a secular humanist. Yes, secular humanism is by legal definition maybe a religion, but by practical definition it's not a religion, right? And neither is secular Buddhism. Does anyone disagree? Or do you have another question you want to ask? And if you guys wouldn't mind lining up, that way we'll get more questions and that'll be great. All right, I love it. Is that Tai Chi?
So taking the question in slightly the other direction, so that was from the side of, I'm an atheist and I have a problem or may have a problem, gut reaction to calling myself something Buddhist. What about the other direction? Do you know how well the term secular Buddhist is received by the traditional Buddhist community? Are they thought of as Buddhists by traditional Buddhists? Are they thought of as atheists?
Yeah, I think they hate it because it's natural to when you are accepting of a certain tradition to be a purist about it, and they're on the spectrum. Some people are more purist than others, right? But it's one of those things where if I'm a traditional Buddhist, I don't want somebody coming in and saying, "Oh, there's another form of Buddhism." But Buddhism's always done that throughout the history, and so yeah, I don't think traditional Buddhists really like secular Buddhism.
Cool, thanks.
Could you just explain about what you think the difference is between hypnosis and meditation?
Sure. I've studied hypnosis before I became an atheist and a skeptic. I became certified in it, and it's basically guided meditation. It's altered state and then repetition of words. It's basically indoctrination. Now, indoctrination can be a good thing. For example, let's say that you want to become more confident, and you want to repeat to yourself over and over that you're more. That does work. So you can indoctrinate yourself. It's bad, I know, but to become different. So there are some uses for it that I think are positive, but you definitely don't want somebody else doing that to you. You want to be in control of that. So I'm if you're gonna do stuff like that, do it on your own and don't just know that the entity you're buying the tapes or whatever from, So some forms of hypnosis may be okay, but meditation is self. It's because, mindfulness meditation at its core, what it's trying to, the way it's trying to redirect your brain or change your brain is to accept reality as it is and to accept things as they are whenever you can at all help that. When you can't help change things, then accept them as they are. The problem is a lot of times people, when they start doing that, they just start accepting everything. I'm not for just accepting everything. Accept things that you can't control anymore, and just learn how to be okay with the moment. And that's what that can be the benefit of like a mindfulness meditation type of thing. So, go ahead.
Hi. I'm kind of. I guess I could identify myself as a secular Buddhist. I've only been meditating for maybe like a little under a year. But I guess I I've kind of been wondering, identifying yourself as that. Do you think there's a way to practice Vajrayana Buddhism at all, or is that purely because it kind of depends on like gurus and some supernatural elements? Do you think that's just a way to practice that, or is that just something that would kind of just be not compatible with being a skeptic and an atheist?
Well, I think, I've talked to skeptics and atheists, obviously, who practice those forms of systems, and they say, I know the difference. I know that there's no supernatural, and, when I practice it, it helps me. And, that's just, one of those things, like me personally, I think to myself, well, I'm fortunate that the system that I learned and that I like doesn't even have that issue. Because mindfulness, you don't worry about it. It's a 2,500-year-old system. It's supposed to work. It's made great changes in my personal life. It works, and I don't have to even worry, with gurus and stuff like that, right? And so, what I usually try to do is just say, maybe try some of the other techniques, and if you really can't practice anything else but that, and that and you see as a skeptic through the mythology, it is what it is, right?
So you said that traditional Buddhists, somewhere between don't care for and hate secular Buddhism. And I wonder, based on that, what likelihood you think there is of success of reforming, as you said a few times, the fourth largest religion?
Yeah, well, it's like any other Reformation. I mean, did the Protestants or did the Catholics like the Protestants?
No,
they
there's
burned
lots of
them,
wars
they
over
killed
that.
them, right? They. Yeah, I mean, they're still burning them and blowing up, maybe, right? And I was born Catholic, so I guess I can make fun of it. But it's just one of those things. Humans tend to hold on to whatever system they hold on to, and they don't want others changing it. And the feeling that I kind of get from traditional Buddhists is they think that we're changing Buddhism. I don't think that that's what we're doing. I think we're just making room for those Buddhists who don't believe in the supernaturalism to be Buddhists and to be fully functioning in the system. I think the Buddha not only would approve of this, but would be a secular Buddhist. So, I think this is a great thing for Buddhism because it just makes Buddhism stronger. Those people that want to practice the supernatural stuff, they have that. They're always going to have that. And those people who don't. And both are legitimate paths as far as both are Buddhist paths. Let's put it that way, right?
Sure. I hope that you turn out to be right, and I wish you luck in that.
Thank you. Well, it's wish us luck, right? We're transforming it together. Because as skeptics, even if you're not already a Buddhist or you don't plan on being a Buddhist, it's good to know and help our other fellow skeptics, right?